I want to turn to the postscript of your book, since this is essentially the postscript of this conversation that we've been having. You do an excellent job of talking about the staff and the remainder of their careers. Do you want to give us a little summary of this section of the book? It's on page 341 for anyone that wants to reference it.
Yes, I think that's very important. And in fact, I think the ability and careers of the people working on the Warren Commission should lend some comfort to those who are questioning whether it was done competently and with integrity. Just by quick reference of the various members whose names I've mentioned during the course of this interview, my classmate Arlen Specter, of course, went on to a career of 5 terms in the Senate from the state of Pennsylvania. And our colleague Bill Coleman ended up serving as Secretary of Transportation in the Ford administration. There were among my colleagues 3 who served out their careers as members of the judiciary. That includes Richard Mosk, who was a justice of the California Court of Appeals in Los Angeles. It includes Stuart Pollack, who was a justice of the Court of Appeals in San Francisco. And it includes Bert Griffin, who served for 30 years as a trial judge in Cleveland. In addition to those, we have 5 members of the staff went on to very impressive academic careers. Norman Redlick, of course, went to work with Lee Rankin in the Corporation Counsel's office during the 1960s. And after Rankin left the General Corporation Counsel position, Norman succeeded him for 2 years and then became Dean of the NYU Law School in New York for 14 years. In addition, David Slauson went to teach contract law at the University of South Carolina. Jim Liebler went to teach antitrust law at the UCLA. And Mel Eisenberg, the former tax lawyer who became our expert in ballistics, served in Berkeley for decades and became one of the widest known and most important teacher of contract law in the English-speaking world. And it was a phenomenal amount of discipline that brought him to the very top level of his profession. Similar achievements were made by John Ely, who died at an early age, but he established himself after a Yale Law School education as one of the most important constitutional law experts of his age, and served for several years as a dean at the Stanford Law School. And then, although Lloyd Weinreb appeared for only a short period after serving for a year in the Justice Department, he went to begin a career in criminal justice and other matters of societal importance at Harvard Law School, where he became and is still one of its most acclaimed professors. So we have people who went into public service, we have judiciary figures, we have academicians, and then we have a handful of lawyers like myself who returned to practice and from time to time dabbled again in public service. But it was a group of which, as a group, I valued my relationships with each and every one of them, and I think they brought to the commission mass of talent and commitment and energy that was well utilized in producing this report.
We've spent the last 3 days going through your journal, entry by entry. We've covered a lot of ground, talked in some detail about some of the many topics that were associated with the Commission's work. At the end of the day, these recordings that we've been making, they're for future generations. They're for people that have no firsthand memories of the 1960s and look on the Kennedy assassination more and more as ancient history, as it were. Speak to those folks for a moment in conclusion, and what do you want the lasting legacy of the Commission and your work to be? How do you want young people to view the work you did more than half a century ago?
Well, I would like young people and not so young people to treat seriously issues of public importance such as this assassination. I think there's inclined now to be a lack of respect for government service or for the assessment by government on public issues. I think there should be a less divisive environment in which people make their judgments as to what's true and what is false. I would urge people of all generations to consider as public service at the community level, at the state level, and on occasion at the federal level, because there are simply satisfactions that emerge from public service that are very important and are different from those which you can achieve in the private or commercial world. So I would argue in favor of more students of history. I would argue in favor of more respect for government decisions, and I would ask for more enthusiasm for public service.
Well, it has been a singular honor to spend these last few days with you, and for your participation in what has become the longest interview in our oral history collection, and also a shining gem in this collection of more than 1,700 recollections. So I'm grateful to you, sir, for spending so much time talking with me. And
I appreciate your leadership, Steve, and that of the director in enabling us to spend this time together. It's been very important for me, and I think the museum is really committed to achieving the kind of respect for history and public service that I've just spoken to. Thank you for that.
All right, thank you, sir.